Welcome to Try Not to Overthink It. I'm RJ.
I'm Unique.
And I'm Khalil.
Every day, just like you, we find ourselves trying to make sense of this crazy thing that we call life. As peers in the healthcare profession, we find ourselves discussing and debating many different topics. And after many heated debates, we decided to both expand upon these topics and give them to you from our viewpoints as licensed social workers and therapists. If this is your first time here, we'd like to thank you for checking us out, and we hope that you become part of the tribe and participate in the conversations. So today we are going to be speaking on representation and why it matters.
Because we said so. Duh.
That is true.
That's it.
Being the only or token person in a sea of majorities is something that, as an African American person, I had to learn to embrace. Representation in everyday life is exceedingly essential. I cannot overstate that enough. We all want to feel like we belong and that we can relate to something or someone. And ever since I was a child, for me, I can remember, reading books and watching movies and television and comics and different things like that, and not seeing a lot of characters or protagonists that looked like me, that sounded like me, that were from the same place as me. As a society, we've become very progressive. We've come a long way in embracing people of many different nationalities, races, religions, creeds, sexual orientations, as well as even socioeconomic backgrounds. The growth towards inclusions and away from exclusions has seen us have some, things that we never thought we'd be able to see. And I thought that it was important for us to talk about that in today's episode.
Well, I talk about this with my sister a lot, actually. And we would talk about how, just like as the Black woman being modeled in TV, I think we hear a lot of times, oh, there's not enough representation of women of color and like dark-skinned women. And I don't know if, maybe I just watched Black shows. My house was just blackity black. So I saw them.
Cosby shows. That would
look, I'm gonna take it back a little further. 227. Look.
Right, 227, all that. Yeah.
I watched Good Times and like Moesha, Sister, where they had like the main characters were dark-skinned women. I remember joking with my cousins. My cousins were all light-skinned for the most part. It's just two dark-skinned cousins. Well, maybe three or four of us that are dark-skinned. But me and my other cousin, who's really tall, they will always call us the Black ones. I'm like, we're all Black.
Right.
Because we're all Black. We all came from the same grandparents. But we used to say like who we were in Destiny's Child. And I always would be Kelly. Right? I remember when Tweet was big, and I was like, oh, I'm Tweet. Like, I love Tweet.
But you kind of look like Kelly Rowland a little bit.
I'm not mad at that.
Look, you kind of look like Kelly Rowland. I'm not lying.
But I was always Kelly. I was always Kelly in the group. I never Beyonce, never Michelle. And so when I hear girls say, okay, I didn't feel like I had representation, I'm like, well, dang, what did your parents have in front of you? Because my mom was intentional about buying the dark-skinned doll. Mm-hmm. Yes, I had white dolls and even had some Hispanic-looking Barbies, but the majority of my Barbie dolls look like me. And my mom is very fair-skinned. So I think she's got a little dark in her older age, but Roger Mel will tell you my mom is light. She is not my complexion.
Yeah, she is.
So, but I think that was something she was very intentional about, was that representation. It wasn't something that I just saw. And then too, it wasn't something that I just saw on TV. It was something I saw at church. I went to a Black church. Mm-hmm. I went to a Black Christian school. I had a Black pediatrician. And so the key figures in my life were Black. And I think that's something that I'm intentional about infusing in my child. No, we can watch all those other things. We can watch Little Mermaid. I don't even like Little Mermaid, but no shots. Okay, Disney, don't try to cancel us. Right. But if I had to choose between shows, I like shows like Roger Mel was talking about that speak to people's differences. So I think she watches a little show. I can't remember the name of the show, but the little girl has natural hair.
Yep.
And her best friend is white, and the little black girl wears a bonnet to sleep. And the white girl is like, well, can I touch it? And so they have this whole episode about boundaries and why it's not okay for the little girl to touch her hair. She's like, but you can get a bonnet, but you can't touch mine. I'm not okay with that. And so I like shows like that. I like shows. She watches Sister now because I want my child to grow up being infused with the knowledge of this is not counter my culture. This is my culture. And I saw examples of that everywhere.
And that speaks to something I was thinking about. Like when you are exposed to, proper representation, it helps you to both learn about your culture as well as embrace your culture and where you come from.
Mm-hmm.
And it also lets you see that there is more to life than what's going on in your particular bubble.
Mm-hmm.
When you see people that look like you reach the highest positions in a company or graduate college or become a professional athlete, it makes it real for you as a person that looks like them or is from the same place as them. Because, just stepping outside of looking like somebody, we're from the same neighborhood. So I know if they can do it, I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the more that, there are people that represent you, regardless if that's where you're from, what language you speak, the color of your skin, your sexual orientation, when people represent you, it makes, it kind of makes things more realistic in life. And that's something that, like for me, I think that it is important that you said about purposefully exposing your child to those things, because if, I've seen the exact opposite where people don't expose their children to those things. And I remember working with a coworker where she was trying to explain to me that she was biracial. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, well, my mom's half white and half black. So that makes me biracial. And I was like, ma'am, your math is off. A half of a half doesn't make a half. A half of a half makes you a quarter.
Right.
And I'm having to break down
her other parent is half and a half.
No, her other parent was all African American. So like just having to explain that to her and explain to her that you are a black woman. And as a black woman, you take pride in being a black woman, because in her mind, she associated herself more so as a white woman than as a black woman because she's really, 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 really light skinned. And so she would, that's what she identified as. And so like when I explained to her the math, a half of a half does not make you a half. That, and then when you add your dad's 100% with your mom's 50%, I'm sorry, you're African American. You're black.
I think. Well, go ahead, Khalil.
So, doing the math for people, but I think, RJ, you're forgetting about the historical issues that go along with passing, right? That's what they used to call it back in the day, in the late 1800s and such, right? We have to know that people who were born of slavery, and there's so many mulattoes and people of mixed descent. Frederick Douglass was of mixed descent. People don't even recognize that because when we put him in frames of pictures, we don't see that he was really light skinned with very light red hair. Malcolm X was someone of mixed descent, but they don't show you that. But the issue is people who could pass because their hair was less coarse, right? A lot of times, even people who had Native American in them, all right, that were 25% Native American or 25% African American, they knew that it was more beneficial for them to pass.
It was safer.
Caucasian, yes. And this was actually survival for them. So when it gets passed down and you talk to this young lady, she's doing nothing but going by her instincts the same thing that people saw back in the 1800s. It's the same thing we see now. It's not that much different. People, oh, the world has changed. No, the world is still biased. And my daughter, being half black, she's dark. She actually looks like a Dominican or something like that, right? And when people see her, they when she used to go out with her mom, they thought that she was Hispanic. And my ex-wife used to get so upset. She was so mad. And I'd say, well, I mean, look at her skin tone. She's got that brown skin. She's very curly hair. It's silky. I was like, hey, people could mistake her. She was like, no, she's biracial and this and that. Which to me, I had to explain to my daughter. And my daughter is very receptive now. And she started to understand. She's 16 now. She's like, I'm black. There's no biracial anymore. She's starting to understand. You're going to have to go through that realization that you are black. People are going to treat you as such. I don't care how much mixture you have in your blood. And of course, that young lady would try to pass. This is our society. I'm gonna get off.
I think a lot of it is about teaching just culture appreciation.
For sure.
Whether you're black, white, Irish, Asian, Jamaican, East African, wherever you're from, I think teaching people to embrace all parts of themselves, right? And not saying one is better than the other, or I have to shun this part or shun that part. I was talking to one of my clients in session, and it was just heartbreaking because she said she has this niece who I guess has one black parent, and well, the dad is black, the mom is white, and so the little girl is coming of age to like her teenage years, and she wants to embrace her black side. She wants to get her hair braided and corn rolled, and no controversy in the comments, please. I'm not saying one is for one culture, but she wants to do things that are traditionally more black. And her white family is just like, nah, I'm not with that. And so I had to tell my white client, I said, well, white people do pigtails. That's the thing that white people do. Like, braiding hair is not just only for black people. Are they saying that she can't get two braids? I know plenty of little white girls who have two braids with the big bows at the bottom. And so they don't want her to do anything. Right. They don't want her to do anything. I was just like, well, I think she can introduce parts of who she is without being offensive to either, right? Not saying I'm not white, because the reality is she is just as much white as she is black. And so being able to identify with both and do what feels comfortable to her is probably going to be what's healthiest in the long run.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we live in a culture where now that type of representation, I don't feel like we see enough of that. We live in a world where you're made to choose. Well, you either black or white. No, I identify with both cultures because she's raised in a white house.
Right.
With darker skin and curly hair, but she's not only white.
Yeah, I think that, like when it comes to things, especially like when it comes to children, I think that for them being able to make the decision for themselves for who they choose to identify as is very important. And as parents, our job is to guide and to nurture and to cultivate the best version of you, regardless of what that version may look like. I think that when we embrace inclusivity instead of exclusivity, it contributes to a better positive self-concept and a higher level of self-esteem. Because you don't have that, well, I'm not good enough because I don't look like this, or I'm not good enough because I'm not from this place, or I'm not good enough because I don't speak this language, or I'm not this way, or, and to me, life is too short to be,
checking a box.
Exactly. Checking a box. And I think that it's important where you can see now where you're seeing more media where people are being equally represented. There isn't, this whole thing where certain things are taboo to talk about, or people have to pretend or hide they aren't who they are. And so I think that it's just important. I think that it makes, like I said earlier, I think it makes things much more obtainable for somebody when you can see people, that represent a part of who you are, regardless if it's a big part or a small part, when they represent a part of who you are and they're doing things. Because then you're like, you can kind of, for me as a child growing up, being into comic books and cartoons and things, most male children see themselves in the role of the hero in the story.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be Superman. I want to be Batman. I want to be this guy. I want to be that guy. And so when you can see, like realistically see people that look like you or talk like you or are a part of you or represent you doing things, you want to be them, because everyone wants to see themselves in the visage of the hero or the visage of the main character. And I think that we're starting to get to the point to where now in society that we're not playing the same things, that just rinsing and repeating what things were before. You're starting to see more and more people be more open and more receptive to different ideas, different schools of thought, different notions. Certain things that used to be things that we didn't talk about or weren't accepted are more accepted now. And, and I think it's the step in the right direction.
That's called growth,
Yeah.
right? When you are able to step outside of your own self, your opinion, and your value system that has been ingrained in you and consider someone else, that's growth, right? Because you're expanding your knowledge base, you're expanding the world around you, you're changing or impacting your worldview when you say, I never thought of it that way. I've never considered that. And you actually consider it does wonders. Funny moment, I was in Dollar General and I walked there. So I was wearing black workout pants, like, fitness athleisure, fitness wear, the little leggings, and a black t-shirt. A lady of lighter hue came up and says, "Ma'am, do you work here?" I had on nothing that said Dollar General, and I had things in my hand. And so I politely said, with a smile, "No, ma'am, I don't." And she looked so embarrassed. She was an older woman, but I think that goes to show you that if you're not careful and you're not embracing the change around you, it's easy to make those mistakes. And I just used that example. I didn't take offense because I said she was, like I said, older and wasn't seeming like paying much attention. But I know that there's been times when it has been offensive in nature, when people assume things about you because they're not, being open, or they're not considering other schools of thought, right? I remember.
I like the fact that, you didn't get upset.
Mm-hmm.
I like that because I think sometimes people take so many things personally. But like you said, it was an older woman. In her mind, she's just looking for help. She's seen, a young African American woman, and she's like, "Gotta work here."
And in her defense, the people who work there are black.
They wear the little black outfits and stuff.
Yeah, they do.
Yes.
Not justifying her, but my thing is, it's your reaction. And that's what people are so reactive. I'm not going to be reactive to someone like that because I don't have the time nor the energy to put into getting upset, angry, resentful over something that, like you said, for her, she said, "Hey, look, if it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's a duck." She said, "Oh,
I'm gonna take my chances.
American, hey, I need help." And so I like the fact that you didn't overreact, because that puts another stigma on us if we overreact, right? And we snap on someone, right? So I'm very glad that you were able to take it and just, "No, ma'am, I don't."
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to situations such as that, I mean, it goes back to the episode that we talked about, the episodes we had about racism, where instead of a conversation of confrontation, you have a conversation of education.
Right.
For me, I can remember being a child, and there was this HBO series that used to come out. It was cartoons, right? And so the whole premise of the show was that it was stories and tales and fables, from across the world. And it was like, they had some about Anansi the spider and about these different characters from all over the world. And so I got to learn about other cultures watching cartoons, and didn't even realize it, because for me, coming from the background that I come from and having the parents that I had, my parents' education was very important. Being immersed in different cultures and learning about different cultures was something that was very important to my parents, because again, it was one of those things where we don't live in a bubble.
Right.
We don't live in a bubble. Like, you're bound to come in contact with someone else who doesn't look like you or doesn't speak the same language as you. And so the last thing you want to do is accidentally offend them. So because, my parents were educating us unbeknownst to me and my sister, we were just watching cartoons. I have a much larger appreciation for other people's cultures. And a lot of times, like, being a therapist and having to explain to others about, like Unique said, cultural, appreciation, understanding that certain ideas, certain concepts, certain beliefs, play a part in how someone may interpret certain things because of their culture, because of where they're from, because of, their nation of origin or their place of origin. All of those things factor into their ability to receive treatment. And so, sometimes, some people are not as receptive as others, because, as we all know, there are some people who are just set in their ways, and they know what they know, and they're only wanting to know what they know. They don't want to know anything different than what they know. And I think that, like I said, we live in a day and age where that can't be the case anymore. You are gonna eventually, it's kind of like, like evolution. If you either adapt and evolve as time goes, or you get weeded out of the environment. And so, as you see, there are so many shows. You can't turn on something like Nickelodeon and not find a show that is culturally attuned to somebody. You can't turn on Cartoon Network and not find a show that is culturally attuned to somebody. Like, my sister was watching this show. It was a cartoon. I can't remember what it was called, but it was a show that was centered around Mexican culture. And they were solving crimes and doing, having to do things that had to do with legends that were centered around their culture. And so it wasn't like a serious show. It was like a comedy, kind of like Scooby-Doo type thing. And, the people that created the show were Mexican. And so, again, they were able to add and, immerse people in their culture and make it interesting. Not make it a documentary where, you're just falling asleep because it's so boring. You're being entertained, but you're also learning at the same time. And so to be able to learn about someone else's culture and be immersed in someone else's culture, and it's not something that is a bore or something that's tedious, I think is, like I said, you see that in today's society now, where we're kind of stepping away from this is what the idea of that we deem as appropriate, and all these other ideas are not as important.
I think, in a world where, I guess in the Western world, we're taught kind of like, if I appreciate someone else's, then I'm saying that mine is less relevant, right? And that's everybody. That's just what we're taught in the Western world. But I think growing up and having moved around a lot, I actually appreciate my culture that much more, because I've learned about other people's culture, and I'm like, oh wow, I didn't even know we did that. And you find the similarities, you find the differences, and you are able to enjoy other people's culture so much more. You're able to enjoy your own that much more, because it forces you to really know, well, why do we do what we do? Why do we have the music that we have? Why do we wear the clothes that we have? Growing up, I think when my family really became, I guess, the denomination that we are now, certain music we just didn't listen to anymore. But as I got older and I started learning more about, like, just the transition of African and Black music, I said it was storytelling, right? It started off with slavery with the Negro spirituals and then the hymns, and then it morphed into blues and jazz. And so over time, we've told stories. So now that you have
Yeah.
rap, right, and you have R&B, does it go to an extreme in some ways? Sure, but like everything can. But I
Mhm.
think even what's the drill? Roger Mel always
Yeah,
talks
drill.
about drill. He taught me about
Yeah.
drill music.
Yeah.
So even drill tells a story. Do I listen to drill? I don't know. I don't even know if I know one song. But I'm sure that if I were to take time and understand, it would help me understand that culture so much more. Okay, this is a culture within my culture that I had no clue about. But I'm even though may not identify like those rappers do, I may not identify in that lifestyle, I'm able to appreciate that person's viewpoint because I have gone other places. I've seen other cultures. If you don't take anything else from this, if you are an adult or if you have the opportunity to see and appreciate a culture outside of that of your own, do it. I don't care if it's going to the next state.
Right.
Hmm.
If you live on the east side, go to the west side and get dinner one night. If you live in the north, go to the south to get some barbecue. If you've never been, if you live on the east coast of the US and you've never been to the south this summer, go to the south. If south, go to the east coast. Go past the Mason-Dixon line. Go to Maine. Go to Texas. Go to California. Go to Arkansas. Go to Kansas, because when you do, you have such a greater appreciation, not only for them, but for yourself,
Right.
right? I don't know. I only have 17 more states to go, and I plan to see them all
That's awesome.
because I pride myself in exposing myself to the thought patterns and the experiences of other people. Maybe
Hmm.
that's why I'm a therapist.
Well, I mean, you guys are talking about cultural appreciation right now. Like that's some of the things that people pay people to come in and teach their companies, right?
Hmm.
People get paid to do this. But the funniest thing is, like Unique is saying, well, it's really on us. We should want to do this
Yeah.
so we can better appreciate our own culture. Like me
Mhm.
growing up, my folks being from the Caribbean, it was like, hey, well, look, when I was a kid, I went to Guyana, and seeing Asian people,
They
have like
everywhere.
an accent and stuff like that, and they were getting along with with Africans. You know what I'm saying? The Afro Caribbeans. It was pretty amazing to me because being from the Washington D.C. area, I hardly talked to. I had some Asian people in my neighborhood. I hardly talked to them. I had Indian people in my neighborhood. I hardly talked to them, and to see these people like working together,
Hmm.
speaking almost the same exact type of lingo language, it actually changed me. I was able to
Mhm.
appreciate other people's culture, seeing women walk around in saris, but what I'm saying, they're having like this Caribbean accent. It was awesome. It was
Mhm.
something I was like, wow, this is like these people are learning how to live together, and they don't have that same disrespect. The Asian person cooking their rice and noodles or whatever they're doing, that's how the other people eat. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And everybody is very, very the cultural assimilation is happening. And it's
Hmm.
like, why can't we do that in America if people are doing it in the Caribbean? Like it's funny to me. So growing up, being able to be exposed to that early helped me, but at the same time, it also made me appreciate my culture more. It made me appreciate because I saw doctors and lawyers who were African American. It was good
Hmm.
for me to see that. Even working in the field I work in, some of the good mentors I had, it was very positive to me to work at a place where a lot of African Americans were in management.
Yeah.
They were the therapists. You know what I mean? They were actually doing the thing that I wanted to do. Working with RJ gave me a good motivation. I was a case manager. He was a therapist. I was like, this is awesome. It's kind of like I got to see people. Plus, there was many more people. One of my good mentors, he didn't finish his doctorate until like me and him started really vibing, hanging out. Chaplain Woods became Dr. Woods. I saw him get his doctorate, and he was like, you need to be able to do that eventually. And I was like, all right, you know what? I might do that. I was like, not right now, but later on, I might do that. And those are the things kids need to see.
Yep, for sure.
You need to know you can, and like, you need to know you can be somebody, but you need to know that it's possible and it's achievable. When everybody used to talk about, oh, well, now we have a black president when Barack Obama was in there. And I don't really think everybody's just happy, but I don't really think that they really recognize the change that was allowed for our culture to be able to be exposed to. This is something that never happened before. The magnitude of the change, I don't think people really grasped that. They were just happy for a second. Hey, we got a black person in the White House. But for these kids, these little children who were growing up in 2008, when he was elected, yeah, I didn't get to see that as a little child. I was a grown adult when he got elected. So for me, I can imagine what that does for them. I can be the president. You know what I mean? I love that. And I don't think people realize that effect. Even if he didn't have the best presidency in the world, what he did for that culture that we're involved in is just, it breaks a generational curse, and people don't even realize that.
Absolutely.
Him becoming president made, being president obtainable for people that look like us. And so, because you are more likely to do things that you see, that you're exposed to, because that's what you're exposed to. It becomes obtainable, it becomes realistic for you, it becomes something that you can reach out and touch. And so when you, being a child, I don't remember many children saying, hey, I want to be president, that look like us.
No.
A lot of us wanted to be a rapper. We wanted to play basketball. We wanted to play football, but now we're, people that look like us are CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, the president of the United States or vice president of the United States. These are things that are more and more obtainable and more realistic and feasible for people that look like us, because people that look like us have obtained it. And so and that's where, like I said, representation, not even just from an aspect for African Americans, but for everybody. When you see people doing great things, it inspires you to want to do those same great things as well. Because you're like, if they can do it, I know I can do it. Right. They're from the same place as me. I can do it too. They went through the same struggles as me. I can do it too. Yep. I experienced the same things as them. I can do it too. It lights that fire underneath you that you can achieve it as well. And I think that by being able to look and have examples of what you can do is what will keep you motivated, because there are so many things that will distract you and that will discourage you and that will take away from you. But when you have that example, that can be that light at the end of the tunnel, it'll keep you focused and it'll keep you motivated and it'll keep you invested in staying on the path and staying on purpose.
I agree. I think last year I started my own private practice, and I didn't think anything about the impact that would have on my daughter's perspective. This young lady has decided she's going to be a gas station owner. And I said, okay. Me and my husband, we kind of gave each other a look like, a gas station. She says, yep, I'm going to open up a gas station and I'm going to own hotels. And I was like, I'm going to be a billionaire. I said, owning a gas station, you might.
That's right.
You might. And so we don't talk about being billionaires or anything like that. But she says, well, mommy, you're your own boss. So I saw you working for somebody, and now you don't work for anybody. You are the boss. So I'm going to be the boss too. I'm just going to own a gas station because people need gas and they need somewhere to stay. So I'm always going to have some customers. I said, you know what? But I never thought about how that would impact, I guess she was 7 at the time, a 7-year-old. Me just saying, you know what? I'm going to take a step back and start my own business so that I could have more time for her. And my husband, I didn't think that she would pick up on that. But it's like what you said, being the first sometimes to do it or making the difficult decision, it's not always for us, right? It's for the people in our community, the people that we
Coming behind you.
coming behind us, right? One of my daughter's friends, her mom is a dentist, and she just opened up her own practice. And so when she had her opening ceremony, like her ribbon cutting, I took my daughter to it.
Right.
And because I wanted her to see not only is she black, but she's a woman and she owns all of this. She said, she's the boss. Like, this is her building. I said, this is her building. She said, wow. And so this is her friend's mom. She sees people with these houses and she's just like, oh yeah, when I get big, when I'm an adult, I'm having this. And is it materialistic for a 9-year-old? Yes. And so we are intentional about teaching her the other parts. Well, how do you plan to give back to your community? What does that look like, right? How does having this gas station, how's that going to change those that look like us, right? If you have a hotel, who are you going to hire, right? Who's going to work in there? What kind of business owner do you want to be? Are you going to be a fair business owner, or are you going to be a mean boss? Right? So we have these conversations but we're not saying, oh, you got to get a real job. No,
hey, look, being an entrepreneur is the real job.
Yes.
I'm not going to get on my soapbox, but I think people fall for working for other people because that's what we're told to do in the institutions we go. Notice I said institution. When they put you in an institution, they almost brainwash you. You got to work for somebody else. No, you need to work for yourself if you know what's really good for you. And I think for kids, that's a tremendous boost of confidence to see their parents as an owner, not a partner, not a person who's working for somebody else, but an owner of a business. That's what I think people need to understand. Like, that does wonders for a child's confidence, that boosts their self-esteem. They know that, hey, this is the bar. This is the litmus test. I need to get here if I want to be like my parents. And that's the type of stuff where I like to see in our community, because other people have it in their communities. I was just reading an article the other day that Hispanic Americans, especially on the East Coast, I think it's close to 50% of them are owning their own houses. You get what I'm saying? That's an amazing number, number. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, well, how can I get my culture to do that? To own land, to own property, which has been an enigma for some of us. I need you to be able to get there. How do we get there? We got to own things. You got to start your own businesses.
Got to start putting money in equity and things of that nature.
Yep. But Khalil, I think it's like we were talking about. It takes one person in your community to do that, right? One person to buy the house. I think for me and my siblings to watch our parents as we were big buy a house, like buy their first house. It was just like, and not only buy their first house, buy and sell houses. We were like, I was talking to my dad. I was like, dude, do you realize like you bought several homes and sold several homes? They're renting now, but it's so for them to go back to renting was just like, oh, we don't see anything we like. We don't know if we want to live in this area. But to see them be able to do that, it's not a foreign concept anymore.
Right.
It's like, oh yeah, I just buy a house. It's not that simple, but they made it seem like it was something just, oh, that's attainable. That's what you do. Going to college was just something that we did. Now I have a kid and she's just like, oh, so am I going to go to your alma mater or am I going to go where the rest of our family has went? I was like, I don't really care. I prefer, I'm going to put it out there. I prefer she go to an HBCU. But I said, I think that would be better for you. But if you want to go you want to go to the school I went to for undergrad, that's fine too. But that's her giving now. It's just, it's not like, if I can go.
It's in her that I'm going to go to college.
Yeah, right. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to buy a house. Not I'm going to grow up and rent a house. Well, she doesn't think she's leaving my house. She thinks she's going to own a gas station.
She's going to live with y'all forever.
She's going to live with us forever. Let her tell it.
But when kids are goal oriented, that means they won't be living at your house forever because they're going to want more for themselves.
But the thing about it though is like what you just spoke about was in essence what we've been talking about this whole time. You know, the exposure to what right looks like, the exposure to greatness, the exposure to success, the exposure to obtaining goals, setting goals for yourself and obtaining those goals makes them realistic to other people.
Yeah.
You know, for your daughter to see you go to college, see her dad go to college, see people be successful, see people own things. You know, there's nothing like being able to say, this is mine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so for her to be able to see that, guess what? It's not an option of, I might not go to college. Like in her mind, she's going to go to college because that's what you guys have done.
Child, she didn't already pick out her roommates.
That's what I'm saying. You know, because she saw what right looks like. So when you see what right looks like, it's very easy to emulate that. Same thing wrong. If you see wrong being done, it's very easy to emulate that as well.
Yeah.
But like I said, with today's society and the way that things are trending, you're seeing more and more of people being able to see the positive things that they are able to achieve, the positive things that they are able to accomplish, and that people don't have to settle for wishing that I could do that, or wishing that, you know, someone that looked like me or talked like me or sounded like me could do those things. Right. You could be that person. Mm-hmm. Because there is someone that is you out there that is doing great things.
Yep.
Exactly. You need to see it. And so when people don't see it, failure becomes an option for them.
Yep.
Oh, for sure.
It's like, oh, well, you know what? It's okay if I got fired from that job. You know what? It's okay that I can't pay the light bill right now. Mm-hmm. Because I've seen that happen in my life to other people. So, you know, that
it was just a matter of time before it happened.
Yeah. And the sad part is mediocrity becomes accepted. It's
like, oh, yeah.
And that's not what we want for our culture, for our children. If you really see other
for society
having some cultural appreciation, growing up in the DC area, I lived in Maryland, and I got to hang around a lot of people from other ethnicities. You know, one of my friends was Korean, and he ended up getting his master's in business. And I remember him working for Fannie Mae and doing stuff like that. And he was like, Khalil, give me some money to invest. And you know what I'm saying? Like, I probably should have back then, because he was up on Bitcoin way before anybody else. But like, I was like, nah, you ain't taking my money. but me and him had some other stuff going on because he had done enough shady stuff when we were kids. So I would be like, I don't know if I'm giving him my money. But like, honestly, seeing his family and sometimes the way his mother would tell him, there was no failure wasn't an option for them. You couldn't bring home B's and C's. People weren't on. She wasn't on that. They weren't on that time. So to me, it's like, if we set this standard that mediocrity is not going to be accepted, not saying that you can't fail at stuff. Nobody's saying you can't do that. But to set that standard high, people want to succeed because I want to be like my mother. I want to be like my father. I want to be like the people that surround me because that's what I see. You know, that's what I get out of this.
I think, and just teaching that failure is a part of that success, right? I am only as successful as the times I didn't get it right.
And I didn't give up.
Like, that's what makes a difference. The not getting it right is going to happen. That's part of the process.
I mean, none of us are perfect. And I mean, the thing about it though, is like when it comes to any amount of success, there's always going to be some struggle that precedes the breakthrough. There's always some sort of struggle. And to be able to see people struggle, not give up, not be broken by the struggle, not be overwhelmed by the struggle, not be killed by the struggle, and be able to survive to the other side makes it more realistic and more obtainable for us. You know, because you're like, if they can do it, I can do it. You know, I can. Me being a highly competitive person, I cannot tell you how many times I've seen someone else do something, and I'm like, if that person right there can do it, I know I can do it. I know I'm better. Exactly. Why not me? Why not me? And I mean, for me, that's something that, you know, like I always look at is, you know, just the work that goes into the success. Like a lot of people want to be successful, but don't recognize the work that went into that. They don't see the hard work that went on behind the scenes. The
long nights,
exactly. The many times that you wanted to give up, the prayers that were sent up on your behalf. And, you know, like I said, regardless of all of those things, to be able to see someone make it, see someone be able to cross the finish line. I mean, it, like I said, it makes it, to where you yourself as someone that is sitting in the crowd, makes it to where you can reach out and touch it yourself. Mm-hmm. Watching someone cross the stage, because they got their graduation. You got some people where I never thought anybody in my family would graduate college. Yep. Now you graduated in college. Now, me being younger than you, I can go to college too because I've seen you go to college.
Yep. I think social media gets a bad rap, but one of the things I enjoy watching YouTubers and watching their journey over time, like people who I've been watching years ago, who I would consider OG in like YouTube world, but now they have 7-8 figures, and I'm like, wow, like, man, I remember when they were coming on here and they looked crazy. They just were holding up. They had their phone up recording, and you saw like we do they had listen, the little mics, and it's like, yo, their content was not what it is today. But you appreciate that growth, that glow up, and you're like, man, it's all love because I saw this person literally have the 2 followers, me and their mama, and now they're like a sensation. Everybody knows them. Like they're a household name. And so, but that's motivation for me to be like, okay, I gotta keep pushing because I know I've been following this person for 5 years, and I know this wasn't no overnight success. Granted, I didn't see all of the hard parts that they didn't post, but I saw like, okay, they grew. Their makeup even changed. Child, their eyebrows used to be thick, 2 fingers thick. Now that thing looking like she getting arched, right? It looks like she got a eyebrow girl, okay? I ain't even gonna hold you. My girl went from a strip of lashes to now she got a lash tech. Right. She couldn't afford a lash tech. But I think that speaks to the progression of people. And so when I'm looking at a lot of these content creators, I say, look, that's going to be my story. Starting off my business. Today it might look like this, but look, tomorrow you might not be able to afford me. You better get me now while I'm not hot.
Right.
Well, I mean,
at today's rate,
like the Rock,
you might have to think about it.
the Rock says it best. I was watching something. He was on Instagram. He was talking about either one day or day one, and so you can either talk about one day I'm going to get myself together, one day I'm going to eventually go to the gym, one day I'm going to get in shape, one day I'm going to start eating healthy, one day I'm going to go get that degree, one day I'm going to get that job, or you can say day one of me working towards those goals. And for a lot of us, like I said, to be able to see, like you said, see a progression. I think that is, it is something that is, inspiring, to see where someone came, where they started at, where they came from, to be where they're at now, and to be able to see their progression, to be able to map it and chart it out, and to see the growth and development and the maturity that comes along with the progression, means a lot for somebody. It inspires you to be great. It inspires you to be better and to do better, because you know that you're capable of better because you've seen someone else do it. And I think that is, what is great about the human spirit, is the fact that no matter what happens to us, we find some way to rise to the occasion. No matter what we experience, we find some way to not be broken, to not be bowed, to not have our spirit shattered, that we'll find some way to rise to the occasion. And I think that for a lot of us, being able to look to people that inspire us to be great, rather that be a mom, a dad, a cousin, a professor, former President Barack Obama, to be able to look to somebody and be inspired by their story and their growth and their development, is something that will allow all of us to be able to reach, some level of success and some level of accomplishment for ourselves.
Absolutely. And I think it's important. I don't think we talk about mentorship enough in this day and age, but I think mentorship is it's invaluable, man. Being able to take somebody under your wing and build up the next generation, one as the mentor, and to just see the mentees development. It re-solidifies the good things that within yourself. You're like, man, I've learned so much, right? I'm able to pour into this person. I'm able to learn more because I know you're gonna come to me. I talked about my mentee before from Morgan. She is now graduating debt free. I got tons of debt, but I was able to put that into her to say, "Nah, you're not doing that. You're not doing it the way I did it. You're gonna do what I'm doing, but do it better. When you graduate, you're gonna go and get your license. You're not gonna wait 5 years. Nope, you're gonna get everything you need. So when you finish," and she went social work route, but I was like, when you're finished, you will be a social worker. We're not waiting. Right. And so she always calls me and she's just like, all right, this is my plan. This is how I'm laying it out. I said, yep, go for it.
Lay out the plan, right, and achieve it. I love what you're talking about because I'm glad that people do listen to us. I'm going to educate people. I'm in tons of debt, but I did have a few friends who applied for these grants. United Negro College Fund is one great opportunity for people. Apply for grants. Do not go pull a whole bunch of loans out. Apply for these grants and use them for your education. People don't understand that. If you can learn anything from what Unique was talking about, is because she learned, she was able to pass on that knowledge to her mentee. And that's why the relationship is so fulfilling, especially when you sow a seed and see it come to fruition. That right there is the work of reaping and sowing. That you're going to start to see other things happen in that person's life, and you're going to gain a lot from it. And you're going to be able to pass that on as they pass it on to other people, and that increase starts to happen. I want people to go to school, especially in our culture, and not accumulate a whole bunch of debt like I did. I could rob a bank and not pay off all my student loans. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy. Yep. So I don't want
not rob a bank.
You know, you
gonna rob a bank? Slide me some. I don't know if I got that much.
Well, look, I'm such a bad criminal. I'll probably get caught. So,
I'll bail you out.
Look, you know what? Her RJ gonna get on there and be like, you know what? Peace Star Brother Khalil locked up. You know what I'm saying? I know Chaz would definitely send me a shout out. I know she would.
Of course.
But what I'm saying,
my boy Khalil until it's backwards.
Listen. Look, I want y'all to know that this can be done, and you don't have to have a lot of money. You don't have to have a lot of debt. Those are things that I want people to learn from watching this show. We want you to achieve it, but you got to write down these goals. You got to set them for yourself. You got to put a time.
Find a mentor.
Find a mentor.
Find a mentor.
All these people here on this show, write us. If you have some questions about education and you want to be a therapist, let us know. We'll answer them. This is not something that we wouldn't want to do. I don't care what culture you're from. You want some information, we'll give it to you. You get what I'm saying? And then you can be able to pass that on to your peoples.
Yep. Absolutely. I think it's just valuable. Even I heard one lady say, at this big age, I still look for mentors. I don't know why y'all be cackling like this, Roger Mel and Khalil. Y'all gonna stop cackling at me.
I'm at a big age.
Cackle.
I'm grown.
Listen, at this big age, I said it again.
Yes, I'm grown.
When I want to venture into something else, I find someone who's already doing it and doing well at it. Yes. And they are at the place that I want to get to. And so when I do that, I am able to sit under their tutelage and gain knowledge. My business mentor today she is somebody who I respect in the field, who is in a place that I want to be, who is making big waves around the world. And so when I talk to her, yes, she's a friend, but when I sit down, I'm like, nah, I need to be on what you're on. And so she's like, don't say this unless you're serious, Unique. And I'm like, nah, I'm ready it's go time. Let's go. And so When I wanted to be married, I got married friends. When I said, all right, I'm trying to be a mom. I need to be around people with kids, right? I'm trying to go back to school. I need to be around students. I need to be around people who are in the field. I started following the page of the school I wanted to go to because I said, I'm trying to immerse and learn in a space that I'm not too often. I think since we're talking about representation, we keep ourselves in spaces that only look like us.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
We keep ourselves in spaces that keep us comfortable or that talk and sound like us. And I think that's a dangerous thing to be in.
Definitely.
Well, I never did that before, and you never will do anything other than that if you don't take the risk of going beyond you, going beyond what you currently know.
Low
right?
risk, low equals low reward.
That's it. That's it. You know, how many people never been out their block, right, Khalil? In Maryland, that's a thing.
Yes.
You never leave your block in Baltimore.
Well,
They've been from the east side to the west side.
Right. And
so
everything is there for them on that block. And it's like, why should I think outside that little box that I'm in? Because everything's there, but that's everything that's there that you've grown up and you've been in that environment that you know is there. There's a lot more outside that.
Yeah, they're different. There's different candy in the corner store on the other side of town. They got other chips.
Different candy, different chips, right?
Hey,
look, we're laughing about it, but there's a whole nother world out there for people,
that's
man. Isn't that crazy? I've met people that said they've never been on an airplane before and never traveled outside their state before. When you meet people like that, it's puzzling to me. I'm like, you never want.
What have you been doing?
What have you been doing?
Listen,
on the block,
living in the confines of what they know. And I think a lot of times we gotta talk about it. Fear. Yes. Sometimes that fear keeps people trapped. And well, what if I get out there and I don't like it? Come back.
Come back. Get a return ticket. That's
it. Come back. I think on my cousin, he lived in Baltimore his whole life, and he got in a situation. He was just like, man, I'm tired of living here. I'm gonna move down south. This man, I don't even think he'd ever visited Tennessee. Well, he decided he was gonna move. We went and got him and took him to Tennessee. And then a year later, I said, how you feel? He's like, man, had y'all not left and I not seen you guys do it, I would have never even considered this. He's like, now I was afraid that I wasn't going to like it, but he was just like, this is the best thing that could have ever happened to me. And now he's talking about moving somewhere else. He's like, well, now I'm trying to see what Georgia's talking about. I was like, come on.
Right. Come to Atlanta. You know what I mean? Come on.
And so, but I think it's just that fear of something being different is what keeps people held captive in what they've always known. But sometimes you got to be scared and do it anyway.
Exactly.
Be scared, get on the flight. Take a Xanax, okay? Talk to your doctor, get a little Xanax, you'll be all right. Okay? Be scared, go on the cruise. Take a 3-day cruise. Be scared, rent a car, drive to the next state over. Be scared, get the driver's license if you live in an inner city, because a lot of people in the inner city, especially Black people, don't have driver's license.
Because like I said, you don't need it. You don't
Public transportation.
Public transportation.
Get the driver's license without the car.
4 corners.
Yep. Get the driver's license without the car. Book the flight, book the train ride, take the Amtrak. If you're afraid to fly and you want to go somewhere, book an Amtrak. Amtrak is a great way to travel if you're traveling in the United States. Get on the bus, get on the Greyhound. They have so many different options. Do not have an excuse of, I'm afraid to go. Don't let your fear be the thing that holds you back from exploring and experiencing the wonders that our world has to offer us.
So we're going to end the conversation there. We're trying not to overthink it. Signing out. I'm RJ.
I'm Unique.
I'm Khalil.
And if you like what you heard, we ask that you stop by the YouTube channel because we can be found on YouTube as Try Not to Overthink It. If you stop by the channel, we ask that you like, share, subscribe, turn your notifications on because we create content weekly. Comment, share. We're just trying to get this message out here. And if you would prefer to listen to the episode instead of watch the episode, I don't know why, because you miss out on the antics and the faces. We can be found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Audible, pretty much everywhere that you can find an audio file, we can be found and listened to. So again, we are signing out and we will catch you in the next episode. Later.